33% of Canadians can't cover their bills. But again, today, the Bank of Canada increased interest rates by another quarter point. And I'm going to show you an article from the Toronto Sun disclosing a survey of Canadians and their tough financial position that they are finding themselves in. And then I'm going to give you my opinion on the whole situation with a surprise twist at the end of this video, because I uncovered a little bit of funny business going on out there with this particular news story. So make sure you stick around all the way to the end. But of course, and as always, if you would like to stay up to date on my real estate market of Surrey and the Fraser Valley, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel. And if I could ask for a quick favor right now, it would be that you please don't miss your payment of clicking the like button for the YouTube algorithm to help get this information out to other Canadians that might not fully understand the ramifications of these rate increases on their monthly bills. So hopping into the article, this article is titled, "Nearly 1 in 3 Canadians Can't Cover Their Bills, New Survey Suggests." And I actually think that just that statement there is a very good thing. But first, let's read the article and then I'll explain to you why I feel that way. Nearly 1 in 3 Canadians can't cover their debt, new survey suggests, as inflation and rising interest rates continue to be top of mind. Let's hope it is top of mind out there for a lot of people, because I think there's a lot of people that are asleep at the switch on this one. Credit reporting agency TransUnion, which surveyed 956 Canadians, which I guess is all Canadians according to them, found that 32% of respondents expected to be unable to pay off their current bills or loans in full. Of those, only 38% plan to cover a partial amount. So let's analyze that here really quickly. It says that they don't plan to pay off their loans in full. I would assume this is a lot different than I cannot cover my bills. This is what the news does. They like to take these articles and say that everybody's in bad shape. Now, for sure, inflation is a problem. Bills are going up, rents are going up, mortgage payments are going up, and it's getting to a really bad spot. However, this says that the respondents to this survey, apparently these 956 people represent the entire country, well, they're saying that they don't expect to pay off their loans in full. I personally don't think this is anything new, but let's keep going. As cost of living in Canada continues to increase, Canadians seem to be less confident with their financial state. Of course, that would be the case. Some 57% of respondents felt that their household finances were as good or better than planned, according to the study, down 2% from the same period last year. So of course the news article is not going to be 57% of Canadians, or the majority, feel really good about their financial situation and are in a better spot than they had planned to be. Instead, it's going to be that 32% of Canadians can't pay their bills in full. And then of course they don't say in full, they just say can't pay their bills. Macroeconomic pressures remain top of mind for Canadians as increased concern about inflation and rising interest rates affected consumer behaviors, says the report. Canadians remain concerned about debt, especially regarding taking on additional credit. Now, personally, I think this is great. This is actually what the rate increases were supposed to do. The whole point of these rate increases that we have seen is to stop spending. And unfortunately, I don't think Canadians or the general public are very good at stopping spending money when they have it. So what the Bank of Canada is trying to do is make your payments for things like housing and rent even more expensive, so you stop spending on other things to bring down the inflation. So what this survey tells me is that it's really good that 33 or so % of Canadians are very now concerned about their finances, which to me is not a high enough number. Now, never mind the 50+% that is totally comfortable with their finances. If anything, I would actually like to see this report suggest that maybe 66 or even more % of Canadians are very worried about their finances, because we all should be. The pullback in spending to cope with these economic realities is noticeable. Hopefully it is. I'm not seeing it yet. I was at a restaurant the other day. It was packed. Everybody was spending money. I don't see it yet, but I know that there are a lot of people out there that are struggling. More than half of respondents said that they cut back on discretionary spending, thank goodness, finally, over the past 3 months, while just 1 in 10 said that they had increased from that form of spending. So 1 in 10 people still totally clueless to this situation that's going on. Of those unable to pay their bills and loans, 22% said that they will borrow money. If you are unable to pay your bills, who are you going to borrow money from? Well, apparently friends and family, while 11% plan to take out a personal loan. If you can't pay your bills right now, the worst thing you can possibly do is take out another loan to try and pay your bills. Another 19% said that they have no idea how they're going to pay their bills. And of course, this news article did come out before today's announcement of the Bank of Canada increasing rates yet again. Now, in case you have not been paying attention or you've been living under a rock for some crazy reason, here is the Bank of Canada's website. I recommend that everybody visit this website, specifically on rate announcement days. This video is being shot on rate announcement day, where the Bank of Canada again increased interest rates. So the overnight lending rate for banks is now sitting at 5%. During the pandemic, that was 0.25%. So we have seen an unprecedented amount of rate increases from about March of last year. And then as a refresher, you can actually click on that rate and you can go back and see when that rate hiking cycle started. So it was actually March of 2022. We started with a quarter point, then a half point, then another half point, then the what should have been a killer. However, we have a very resilient market. And in my estimation, probably an irresponsible amount of immigration coming in. We then needed to see another 75 point, 2 more 50 points, and a 25 point. Now, when they did not announce in March, and again did not announce in April, it really seemed like the market thought we were back, baby. And things like home prices started to go up again. But again, this is not related necessarily to the fact that this is a spending issue. This is a supply and demand issue, particularly in my side of things with the real estate market. I think the 12-month average they reported on BNN last week was something like 1.2 million people, or 2% of the overall population of Canada, being pumped into the country in just the last 12 months. It's absolutely crazy. We're only building 210,000 new homes. So in June, you got another quarter point. In July, now today, another quarter point to bring us up to 5%. Now, this is putting a lot of people in a very bad position, particularly if you took one of those variable rate mortgages when rates were really, really low. And unfortunately, the bond yields are also now going in the upwards direction, meaning that the 5-year fixed rates, 3-year fixed rates are all starting to skyrocket, putting us in a really bad spot. But as I mentioned, if 33% of Canadians are worried about their bills, that means they're starting to think about that number. And if anything, I would like to see that number get a heck of a lot higher. But I did promise you some funny business. And for that funny business, we're going to have to go over to BNN Bloomberg, where they talk about a very similar article. 1 in 3 Canadians can't cover their bills amid debt trap, says survey. Almost the identical title for the article. Let's read this one. 1/3 of Canadians have stretched themselves so thin that they can no longer cover their monthly bills and debt payments, according to a survey released Monday that paints a disconcerting picture of household finances in the country ahead of the Bank of Canada's next rate decision. 33% of respondents to an MNP survey conducted by Ipsos admit to being stretched beyond their means on a monthly basis, marking an 8-point increase since MNP's last survey in September. Meanwhile, almost 48% of respondents said that they only have a $200 buffer to cover their obligations. Canadians' increasingly strained pocketbooks is given rise to self-reflection, as almost 4 in 10 respondents to the survey admit that they regret the amount of debt that they have taken on in their lifetime. Seemingly the exact same article, which you would agree would probably be covered by both the Toronto Sun and BNN Bloomberg before the rate announcement. However, I promised you some funny business. And for that, let's go back into the BNN Bloomberg article, and you're going to see that this article was written on January 15th, 2018. And that leads me to believe that about 1/3 of Canadians are always going to be concerned about making their bill payments. And there's a very good chance that more than half of us are going to be just fine. Now, What that does not do is that does not take away the fact that your bills are going to increase the next time you go to renew your mortgage or the next time you go to move to a new rental. We have to prepare ourselves as Canadians for this reality. And there's just too many people burying their head in the sand and not understanding what's happening with these rate hikes. So that is my rant for the day. Again, on the media, recycling old news headlines and trying to keep you scared. I do think this is a legitimate issue. I do think that Canadians need to be concerned about their finances, but I have thought that they should always be concerned about their finances. And it doesn't matter whether or not we're going through this rate hike cycle or before in the last rate hike cycle or any point in time. About a third of Canadians can't figure out their bills, and it's always going to be that way. Thank you so much for watching. Please remember to subscribe, click the like button, and we'll see you in a couple of days.